Humans had only been part of the Galactic Federation for 5 years before the bill was introduced. Politics seemed to be ubiquitous, no different from the strategies and absurdities that we'd had on Earth for millennia. General Bianca Farwell stared at the bill that banned added sugar displayed on her holoscreen, absently tapping her fingers against the surface of her desk. The most frustrating part of this was that it was just the same old, same old. She'd been at this job for decades, stationed all around the solar system, and she'd seen the clashing of cultures as aliens worked alongside humans. Most of it was benign, though, understandable confusion by a contradiction in what constituted a respectful greeting, or a mistranslation caused by a bug in software. But this was a deliberate attack on the integrity of her species, and was frustrating as hell. Of course, the bill had barely passed, but it had passed, and those who'd written it up were clear on the phrase added sugar, considering how much of their diet consisted of natural sugars, but somehow they had made things worse. As if implying that the natural sugars they consumed weren't enough, that they needed more and more. Painting them as addicts, Bianca had an uncle who was an actual recovering addict, and it was a slap in the face to those like him who genuinely struggled. A knock sounded at the door, and Bianca straightened in her office chair. "Come in." Lieutenant General Jackson Brilliant entered her office, shutting the door behind him. "How are the troops taking it?" she asked. Jackson sighed as he took a seat in front of her desk, his posture stiff-backed, less from respect and more from the tension of the situation. "They'll be fine. It's a federal ban that'll mostly impact those off-world, and we know they can't reach onto human-owned planets and dictate our diets. And we all know that real sugar addictions were back in the 20th and 21st centuries, and even then, when people suffered from withdrawals when cutting it from their diet for health reasons, it was just headaches and crankiness." "I meant more the mood," Bianca said with a grimace. "This is insulting and everyone knows it. I'm worried about cultural clashes, insults that lead to bar fights, that sort of thing." "I'm not seeing much on that front so far, but nothing we can really do there except take the hits as they come," he added. "But I know our government has taken it in stride, saying it's all fine, sticking to facts and that addiction isn't what this is about." Bianca smiled just slightly. "Oh, I know that look." Her smile widened at the comment. "What do you know about the prohibition of alcohol in the United States in the early 20th century? Jackson paused. "Not much, to be honest. I know it happened, stuck around for a few years, didn't work." "Oh, it worked," Bianca told him. "It just came at too high a cost. Deaths from liver cirrhosis, alcoholic psychosis dropped dramatically, as did infant mortality, but it was made illegal, not impossible. So it just went underground, and crime flourished, especially organized crime." "You're suggesting the same thing will happen here?" "I am," she said, to the smile still on her face. "There's a quote I'd like to read to you." She turned to her holoscreen. "To demonstrate Americans' widespread disrespect for Prohibition, Federal Agent Izzy Einstein timed how long it took him to find alcohol in most major cities. It took him 21 minutes in Chicago, in Atlanta, 17, and only 31 seconds in New Orleans, where he asked a taxi driver where he could get a drink, and the man replied, 'Right here,' as he pulled out a bottle." Jackson's face split into a grin. "That's entertaining, but not sure if it's encouraging. You're saying that humans are just going to bring this underground? That would make the situation worse, do exactly what the opposition wants, and paint us as addicts." "What I'm saying is that I realized we were looking at this from the wrong direction," Bianca said. She leaned forward on her desk, clasping her hands. "This isn't alcohol, or heroin, or cocaine. We can deal with it just fine, and we will, even though it will make us unhappy. But yes, it will be driven underground. It's just not only going to be the humans affected, though. Tell me, Jackson, the last time you had an intergalactic meeting in person, were the humans at the table the only ones that enjoyed excess sugar?" No. It's enjoyed by many other species," Jackson replied. "We've just perfected excess consumption, as General Hakalan put it." "So it's going to be driven underground. Consumption will decrease sharply but continue, and much like the prohibition of alcohol, who are going to be the ones to be able to afford and find ways to obtain sugar in mass quantities?" Comprehension bloomed on Jackson's face. "The rich and powerful." "And so, Jackson, tell me, what is going to happen when the truth comes out, as it always does? When everyone finally realizes that the true addicts here are the ones who push through the bigoted law, and now find ourselves tangled up in?" Bianca shook her head and leaned back in her chair. This next year is utterly predictable in the path it will take, but I'll tell you one thing. She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. I'm looking forward to watching these hypocritical assholes backpedal, and try to rationalize when the first evidence comes out that they enjoy sugar just as much as we do.